Hello everybody, I'm back with some new video. Unfortunately we're not going to be working on that tree we were working on the other day because I'm stuck on it. So and sometimes when I get stuck on a tree I don't know where to go. I'll just pick it up and look at it and wait till something comes up and I know which way to go. But I figured maybe we'd do a little bit on leaf twisting here because that's one thing you're going to need to do to make trees. And so we'll go into the two ways. I have two different tools for leaf twisting. First of all, we have here my trusty old needle nose pliers that has made many leaves. That nasty plastic you see on there is wrapped on there to make it a little wider, and the plastic kind of wears off rather than the skin on my hands. Seems to keep me from wearing a hole in my palm, which I still do if I make too many leaves too fast for too long. But first thing you'll notice about this needle nose pliers is it's been modified quite a bit, and one of the things, I'm squeezing it as hard as I can right now, and you'll see the tips don't actually touch each other. There's about a ½ millimeter in between the tips there, because if the tips can actually go together all the way, you can actually cut the wire by squeezing it too hard, and that's no good because then you're minus the leaves you just made. So that's the first tool. And the second tool that I use to make leaves that I came up with a little later that I'm still not decided on which one's better is this. This is a flat blade screwdriver bit, a chrome vanadium one. It's really high strength steel. It's brittle. It doesn't tend to bend. And I use these a lot to make leaves. They seem to be helpful. And what I usually do, I usually make them out of really short bits because sometimes it's neat to have that short bit to get up there into tight spots to adjust my bunch of leaves in the tree. And you'll see that when I actually start making leaves on branches later on. But you might want to practice making leaves and see if you like it before you get into making a whole tree. And I usually put that in a magnetic bit holder, kind of a screwdriver thing I have here. And we'll use this first and we'll make some leaves with this. Now when you're making leaves, you want your wire to be as straight as possible. If your wire's all bent up, it makes it harder to make the leaves. And you'll probably see that because even me, I try and keep my wire straight, but it gets bent up. But if it is all bent up, I try and straighten the strand out as much as possible before I start making leaves. Now this is going to be hard to see here. I like to keep my fingers way up close to the wire when I'm making leaves, and on this first loop I like to get the wire right at the end of the wire and then take that first loop and bend it around so the tip gets right into the chunk of wire there, so that tip ain't sticking out, because it'll reflect light funny on the bunch of leaves when you're done. So that first one goes right in there, and then I do an over and under thing. So this first one's gonna go underneath, and the next one's gonna go over top. Underneath, over top. Underneath. Ooh, got her stuck. Over top. Okay, so we got to start there, and maybe you can kind of see that over under pattern I'm doing there. Okay, you get about 2.2 loops per inch. So if you want to have 30 loops on your bunch of leaves, you're going to need a pretty long piece of wire. I always, before I start making leaves out of on a tree, I always take a piece of wire like say 5-6 inches long, and I twist it up to see how many leaves I'm going to get. Because how tight you twist them makes a difference on how many you get. And I usually like to have at least 15 loops on a bunch of leaves, and sometimes I go as high as 30. And I try and keep my leaves real flat. Man, I hope that video ain't getting dark for you guys. What the heck is going on here? But okay, at this point, what I usually do is, you can see in there, that's hard to see, but there's a little gap. So what I do is I take this center section and I puff it up like that. So there's actually 2 levels on there now, because perfectly flat bunches of leaves don't look so good. So now I'm going to continue on making this bunch of leaves. And we're doing the over and under. Over. Under. Now another thing you don't want to do when you're making leaves is slowly but surely spin it. It's hard to say, but if you don't watch what you're doing, you'll start to spin your bunch of leaves as you're twisting them. And what will happen is you'll end up snapping the wire down here eventually. You can't have too many twists in there. It's just like a rubber band. If you spin it around too many times, it's going to snap, and then right when you're getting your bunch of leaves up to the branch, they'll break off, and that's a real bummer, because it's really hard to add wire into a tree. So you got to be careful and keep everything level, and don't let that bunch of leaves spin around on you while you're making them. Okay, so there's some leaves made with that tool, and those are real hard to make. I use a little diamond tool. There's probably about 1 millimeter between the prongs, and it sucks if you drop them. You break the little tips off there, and you can't use them for a pry bar. You only use them for making leaves. I make mine with diamond bits. I just, buy the tips and these itty bitty little diamond files, and it takes a long time to make one, but they come in handy sometimes. But I still use the pliers here from time to time. Let's make some loops with those and show you where I'm at with those. You might like the pliers better. You might like the, I don't have a name for the other one, the screwdriver bit, making leaves. Because the advantage of the pliers is you can actually grip the wire. Whereas with the other one, you can't, get them prongs together. So if you have problems, with prongs, then use the needle nose. And then it's still the same over and under. And if you do 2 unders, that's not the end of the world. I'll do 2 unders right now, because sometimes you goof up. And if you do, 2 unders, maybe you get in there with the pliers and flatten them out. And then as I'm going along, I kind of keep tightening the leaves up like this, so they look all nice and they don't have real big gaps in them. But that makes it harder to do the over and under, and sometimes I'll take it and kind of kink it in there so it's flat. You can kind of go back and forth between the puffed up and the flat. Okay, we're coming up on 10 minutes. I should probably take a break here. But yeah, that's making leaves. Hopefully they'll look like that when you're done with them. And I suppose that's it for this one for right now.